Now, let's start with some definition quickly, but it's important because incident detection is a field where everyone has his own vocabulary. So I will share very, very few concepts. First, the concept of event. So an event is anything that takes place or happens. What is important is that usually an incident is the result of an event or a combination of events, but an event is not necessarily an incident. So an incident is an event that negatively affects your organization, and particularly in terms of security, which can compromise at least confidentiality, integrity, or availability. And the incident detection is the process of identifying threats by monitoring all that. So basically, if you go very simple, there is thousands, millions of incidents, and incident detection is the art of detecting out of all these incidents, which are all those events, sorry, which are real incident and needs to be taken care of. So incident example can be an intrusion in the finance server, a physical intrusion, someone entering the data center, they are not allowed, an elevator breakdown. If the elevator is broken, people can't go work, so it affects negatively the company. A virus or even a heat wave. For example, I thought yesterday night there was a big storm in Paris. There have been even dead people, and that's a real incident. It's worse than a virus. If it's during the day, people can't work, etc. So we consider that also as an incident. So now that we've started with few definitions, let's go through the theory and why. What is the problem we are trying to solve with IDMEFv2? So here we have like a representation of a company with a production part, administrative, the building management, I think energy, all that, and the PC, the servers, the network, etc. So in the 90s, let's say approximately, people, when there was, first there was very few PCs and servers, and then they started to have a lot, and that's when we started to have availability monitoring with what I call network monitoring system. It's, I would say, the equivalent of a SIEM in the availability management. There is not an official name, so we will call that network management system using SNMP very often. And they were monitoring PC, servers, network, etc. Then start the cybersecurity, start being connected to internet. There was security problems, so that's started with SIEM and SEM, and then there was the SIEM. It was invented, the name was invented in 2005 by the Gartner. And the perimeter would add employees, because employees would authenticate and things like that. And then in 2010, approximately, we start having the physical security with everything connected. So there is cameras, CCTVs, incident movement detector, fire detector, etc., etc. And now on the right, we have IoT. So I don't know where to put them because they are actually, they were there and now they're going to be everywhere. And the problem is that all that is monitored separately. There is cybersecurity, physical security, availability. No communication. You can't communicate between the different platforms. And this is going to be worse with the rise of IoT, IoT, smart cities. There's going to be IT everywhere in the physical world. And this is why IDMEFv2 is even more important, because we are preparing, I would say, preparing the future. There is already a convergence between physical and security world, but it's going to be more and more in the future. And by compartmenting all that, it's going to be more and more difficult to prevent, detect, and respond to combined or complex incidents with cascade effects and all that. And even the CIA, let's not talk about physical, even the CIA, the fact that security is not really security in SIEM. It's just confidentiality and integrity. SIEM, they don't care about availability. Availability is in NMS. So even CIA is not in the same, even the security is not in the same tools and process. So separate tools and process means no cross-correlation of forensic, no team resources pooling, and complex chain incident or attacks is difficult to detect. Quickly, let's have a theoretical reason why a server wouldn't be working. So it explains everything. I have my server not responding. Here is a few reasons why. So maybe it's the CPU to 100%, so it's more availability. Maybe there is a crypto war, it's cyber. Maybe there is a fire in the server room, so it's physical. Network card availability, someone entered and disconnected physical availability, etc., etc. And you go to the strong heat wave. Let's say there is a strong heat wave and the air conditioning is not working, resulting on overheating and crashing down. That's hazard plus availability. And the last one, the worst case scenario, is a shy drone destroyed the data center. I'm giving this example because it's coming. We are in a time where everything, there are combined attacks and all that, and a hybrid war. And of course, the shy drone is not coming to us, but it's coming to Ukraine already. So it's more than an incident, it's worse than a virus. So we think all those incidents should be reported and consolidated in the same monitoring platform. It's historical that there are different platforms, but if you think a little bit, that's a little bit weird. I will explain later. I've been managing different products, network management and a SIEM. So I was product manager. And I can tell you it's really weird to deploy two tools which are monitoring more or less. Part of it is similar. And when there is a security problem in the NMS, you don't see it. When there is a availability problem in the SIEM, you don't see it. It's very weird. I suppose if we had to invent today a monitoring system, it will take everything all together. And that's what we are trying to propose. So what is the solution proposed? First, we keep the physical availability security for the moment. We are not expecting everyone is going to stop and say, okay, I redo everything with IDMEFv2. But the first step is at least to make possible the centralization of all those information on the same platform, thanks to IDMEFv2. And we added, I will explain later, natural hazard are also done with IDMEFv2. What do we use to do that? A universal JSON format reporting all kinds of incidents, cyber, physical, availability, hazard. So we can have convergency objective on security monitoring, improve prevention, detection, reaction, and in theory, not right now, but in theory, reduce cost, because instead of having multiple monitoring platforms, you can have only one. So in theory, at the end, it's less cost for more performance, for more efficacy. Very quick state of art on incident detection format, because you might think some people, when we come with IDMEFv2, say, oh yeah, but there is already disease, there is already that. No, there is absolutely, and engineering will confirm, when you propose IDMEFv2 somewhere, there is no one coming, unless they are wrong, there's no one coming with an alternative. It's not in cybersecurity. There is not even one single format for just cybersecurity. There used to be IDMEFv1, but it never really crossed the commercial line. It was on open source research, but it didn't work. it didn't work on commercial stuff. There are a lot of proprietary formats, essentially locked format, but not universal. In physical security, I'm less expert, but I didn't identify any standard. In availability, of course, there is SNMP, and SNMP is for pooling, and we are not replacing the pooling of SNMP. SNMP pooling is perfect. We are just after the pooling, when you get the result, to send the incident to the monitoring platform. And in Hazard, I identify a format called Common Alert Protocol, which is also in JSON, much smaller. So it's interesting. We're working on translating CAP in IDMEFv2. And I insist on Hazard because you don't have to be very clever to know that it's going to be something very important. The next year, it's going to be more and more important for two reasons. Why? First, there is the climate change, of course. And the second reason is because with IoT, the IT is getting out of the data center. When you have all your servers in a data center, there is the cooling, the fire protection, everything. So the effect of the nature on the data center, unless you have a power rack, there is no effect. But when you start going out, obviously the nature and the heat, the flow, the cold, the snow, all that is going to be more and more important. 2 words about the existing cybersecurity formats, because often when we were talking about IDMF, everyone would say, oh, well, there is already STIX. But STIX is not at all an equivalent. STIX is really CTI oriented. It's in the name, threat information. So it's complementary, but it's not at all equivalent. And recently, when we went to IETF to propose the standardization track, so I say, oh, yeah, but there is OCSF. So I was less expert, so I was a little bit surprised. But then I looked a little bit. OCSF is a very ambitious alternative. But first, it's only cyber. It's more, second, it's very log-oriented, not incident detection, and there is no physical hazard availability, no detection, correlation, etc. So it's, and something they did is to choose exhaustivity versus simplicity, and that's not the choice of IDMEFv2, I will explain. So those formats are complementary, but they don't have the same goal nor the same perimeter. Okay, I'm checking the time. I think it's okay for the moment. I've started with this short introduction, why and what we are doing with why we are doing IDMEFv2 and why and why and how. Sorry, no, and now we explain. Sorry. Now we explain how what is inside IDMEFv2. So first, I will present, because it's very important to, the force we had in my former team is that we worked on IDMEFv1 for nearly 10 or 15 years. And it was very interesting to have, we worked on it, we studied it, we coded it in Prelude CM, we tried to improve it, etc. So we had a very good feedback about what was interesting in a structured format for incident detection and what was not. So the first decision we took is to follow the less is more motto, or the keep it simple, stupid motto. The idea is that in IDMEFv1, but it was done a long time ago, it was just the beginning of cybersecurity, and the reflex was to put everything. The idea was to put everything, try to put everything in the attributes. So it led to a very complex format, very deep learning curve. To program, it was very complex because we did it, and it's not good for adoption. So the first goal of IDMEFv2 is to prefer simplicity. And this little schema shows that, or my schema, it shows that you have to reach a point of complexity where you have the best adoption. If you have something too simple, it's useless, so people won't follow. If you have something too complex, if you go too far, then you lose adoption because only very, very deep experts will follow you. So our goal, especially during the V2, maybe later there will be a V3 with more information, but the V2 is really to make to keep what is essential. I'm insisting on that. If any one of you work later or give advice, it's very important because the first reflex of technical people is to put everything. To decide what you have to take off is always very complicated. It was a big battle with my team. They were coming with big list of attributes, and at the end, it was much shorter. There was the 1 out of 1,000 rule also. Sometimes I was saying, okay, this is very interesting, but it happens 1 time every 1,000 million incident. So we can't keep that because if we keep all the very, very special stuff, it will be to be. Second, incident detection focused, so not exhaustive logging or analysis. We are not expecting to put everything in IDMEFv2. We are putting only the stuff necessary for incident detection. Then when the incident is detected, when you open the ticket, whatever, then you start analysis, and maybe you have to go somewhere else to find information. It's even more interesting. It's now there are the SOAR, S-O-A-R, which can easily get the information. So it's less important to keep the information in the format. That was the choice of IDMEFv1, and it was powerful but very complicated. Cyber and physical security and CIA, so availability is in the format. Wherever we can, we propose enumeration of attribute, closed list. That's another thing which was missing in IDMEFv1. If you want to have easy correlation, you have to have the less choice possible. And very important, the end-to-end format. The format starts to the sensor up to the operator. It has to be understandable by the operator. So sometimes some attributes, they are for computing, for correlation. Some other attributes are for the operator. That's the case for location. I will explain. On the bottom of the slide, you have a link toward the standardization principle. That's just a few of them. There are a few more. I think it's interesting to read that, even if you work in other field, because I realized that if we didn't put some kind of principle, everyone would come with different ideas. So we try to have all the same philosophy. Schema, this one is a little bit complicated, but to explain the link between the different format when you do incident detection. So here you have the assets. You have the detecting zone, the sensor, and the analyzer detecting incident, sending the incident to the manager with a machine-to-machine language. There's correlation, enrichment, CTI, whatever in the management, and then you display it toward the operator. And there it's man to human, and it's different. For example, if you give a geolocation with longitude, latitude to an operator, it can't guess where it is in the building, if say 24.7, whatever. So you need a local location. So this I will explain. Then there is the analyst after the incident, the analyst corresponding with other analysts, human to human, and creating maybe a CTI. And if you take here, the first part between the sensor and the operator is IDMEF. There is another standard at IETF called IODEF, Incident Object Definition Exchange Format, and it's more between human. When you have an incident, then you send the information to analyst so they can help you and maybe create CTI. And you can attach, for example, an IDMEF. IDMEF is more technical to an IODEF. Then you create sticks information, and the sticks information is coming back to the manager for correlation with incident. It can help detecting new incident. That's the I made this slide because often people know sticks, they know IODEF, or they know whatever, and they don't know where to put that. And I will put OCSFS, open schema, the one I talk about at this part, in the detecting part. It's log, and out of this log, structured log, very, very well structured, it will be easier to get information much better than syslog. Now, let's go a little bit in details with the format. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 class of IDMEFv2. So again, when you see the schema, it's very simple. You say, yeah, well, of course. It took us quite a few moments to decide, especially, as I said, as we wanted less complexity possible. So the source, I suppose you know what it is, the source of the incident, the target of the incident, the impact, the asset impacted, the vector. There is in cybersecurity, you talk often of vector, attack vector. In physical, it's obvious. If there is a drone attacking a building, it's the vector, or a bullet or whatever. The sensor is capturing the information, and the analyzer is analyzing the information. This was very important. That's, for example, we aren't used to that in cybersecurity, but in physical security, there is a lot of sensor. There's cameras everywhere, and there is a monitoring centered platform where you manage all the cameras. And those cameras, they are on specific location. So it's important to know where they are because they have a specific sun detection area. The same for movement detection and things like that. So the notion of sensor was important. And then you create the IDMEFv2 alert. Just very quickly, I won't go into detail. That's the schema of IDMEFv1. You can see there is 30, I think I counted very quickly, there is 30 classes with all kind of relation, and it was recursive, so the coding was hell, and obviously it was good because we started out of that, but the mistake at the time was to make something too big. I'm sure it's better to, especially if you want to be in cyber, in physical, in availability, and natural hazard, if you go deep in all those fields, then it's not 30, it will be 200 classes, and nobody will never use it. So we are going now through all the classes, but quickly, it's just don't be afraid. I'm just trying, I will try to insist on the little specific stuff. So the version, the UID, unique ID of the message, that's obvious. Then we have organization name, entity name, and organization ID, entity ID. It appeared recently because of the project we are working on now with Safe for SOC, which is collaboration between SOC, because the first aim of IDMEFv2 was to have a single architecture, combine cyber and physical. But if you start using IDMEFv2 as an interoperability format, obviously, if you connect all kind of SOCs, it's important you know where the incident is coming from, because if you use only the target IP as its private IPs, they can be the same on different places. So we added that. The category of the incident, so it's in two-step intrusion.bulgari-meteorological.fog. So that's another subject. There's a lot of work on this part. The cause, if you know it, is it malicious, malfunction, etc. Description, the status is important. in IDMEFv2, you're going to put incidents, but you can also put event that might be incident. And that's the SIEM, the manager, the center, the monitoring, which is going to make the difference. So we have, for the moment, we have two steps. Either it's an event, either it's an incident. Maybe it's going to be a number here, because sometimes when people who do incident detection, they know that sometimes you have an incident, you are not sure an event, you are not sure it's an incident, you need to check more, but you have to keep it in the database because you have to check with others, you wait for more information, etc. The priority, the confidence, just for information, we use priority instead of severity, because that's very operational. The operational people, they care about the severity and the impact. The severity, if it's on a server which has no importance, it's not a priority. So we have the combination of the severity and on what kind of server, that's the impact, what kind of asset, sorry, that's the impact. Create time, start time, end time. Create time is the time of when you create the alert, and start time and time, the beginning of the incident, the end. Of course, if you know that, if you don't know, you don't put it. Alternate name, alternate category, that's to use the extension, and few attributes for managing the computing for incident detection, so correlation, previous ID, related alert, previous alert, etc. So that's a little bit complicated. I won't explain today, but that's typically the attributes just for the manager. It's not for the operator or whatever, just to make the detection. The analyzer, it's everything is a bit classic IP name host name. So we have a lot of information about the model, the type, the category. The idea is that if you mixed on the same architecture, different if you mix different tools, it's interesting to know that the same incident has been detected by two tools using different technique. If it's the same technique, if you have two antivirus detecting a virus, okay, that's interesting. But if you have an antivirus and AI model detecting something weird at the same time, it's better to know. So we put that, the data, the method, etc., and then the location. So I will explain just for this one. There are three locations. The geolocation is longitude, latitude, and altitude. So that's what you have with your GPS, for example. The UN location is a higher level location, is United Nations location for trade and commerce, but we use that. It's all big town in the world have this code. So here it's Greece, Athens, but you can have Paris, from Berlin, whatever. And what we call the location is I would say, the internal location, the way people talk. They talk about the data center, the front yard, the rooms, etc. And that's typically the location for the operator, because the operator, if you give him the 48.75, it doesn't know where it is in the building. If you say it's in room 6306, it's very clear. So, of course, you have to define your own location for your architecture before using that, but that's very, very powerful. The sensor is more or less the same. I won't insist. There is even less information. It's just capturing the information. The source, nothing very special. Just the TI threat intelligence string is for enrichment. If you get information, if you have some threat intel on this source, you can add it there, so the correlator can use it. The target, nothing special. We had to choose, so we choose service, user, email, port. Of course, we could put much more, but we put the most important information. It's important. We nearly called it impacted, but it was complicated because people would. But it's not. It's a target, but in case of availability problem, it's more an impacted asset. There is not someone sending a vector to make your server break down. It just breaks down. So when you think about target, it's also impacted the vector between the two. So nothing special. And the attachment class, you can put the attachment class a little bit everywhere. There are a few attributes. You can say essentially either you put some JSON information, like a small JSON, into the big IDMEFv2, or an external file, an image, or whatever. This was the easiest way to have easy extension. There is another way you can really create a new attributes. It's detailed in the draft. But if you are in a hurry, you just put that in a JSON. In IDMEFv1, we had additional data, and people were putting a lot. So here it's a little bit more structured, the additional data. It can be attached everywhere on the target, on the source, whatever. Now we go through some example. The idea is just to show you that it's not so complicated. It's quite easy. Even if I hadn't explained everything to you, you can nearly guess what is in there. So it's a failed authentication on root account, the geolocation, the location, the user, etc. So that's a typical cyber example. Physical is a little bit more original because there is less the cyber example. It looks like some others, but physical, you will find the analyzer is a front door camera. The target, the vector has been detected. What is the vector of the incident? It's a human, because the camera has detected human activity. And we put the picture of the human taken by the camera in the attachment. So when you are monitoring in the central security room, you have the alert, and just you click on the alert, and you can have a shot of what's going on, the image. So of course, if you take what they call PSIM, physical security information management, it's the equivalent of SIEM, but in physical. They have all that, but they have only that. They don't have the cybersecurity, they don't have the availability, they don't have the other. So the idea here was to find simple ways, it's no big magic, but to have the minimum necessary in the centralization. Availability here, we don't have any source, it's only the target, because there is no source. It's bad luck, but you can still send information. And the idea is, of course, there is not much information about what's going on, but you can correlate. You have the IP of the target. Maybe you have a security problem at the same time. So if you see they can't be reachable and there is a security problem, maybe the security problem is the reason of why they can't be reachable. And you gain time instead of looking for network problem. Obviously, if there is an attack on the server, you can't connect to it. And that's what really, when we were working and deploying our products, that was really the problem between SOC and NOC, how they can communicate. And they are taking a lot of time to put things together. As if they had the format, it would be much easier. We in our tools, what we had done is that on the SIM, could click on the IP and you would see the SNMP alert from the NMS, and the same on the other side. But it was still just little links. As now with IDMEFv2, we can have a global platform where then you can go down to the SIM or the And to finish, as a hazard example, the little trick on the hazard example is that the create time is much before the start time. It's like a minority report. You know there's going to be an incident. The thing is that for the weather, for example, for some natural hazard, you know it before. You know there's going to be a storm. You know there's going to be a cold wave. You know there's, so you can create the incident. It's in the database, and then the monitoring tool can use it to prepare some stuff. So I give you a simple example and why hazard came into that. In the first project, we worked together with engineering, where we're monitoring ground segment, and one of the ground segments was in Finland, and there was a lot of snow. And when there is a snow, they have to activate the heater, I think, to heat. Okay. I thought instead of waiting for the snow to arrive to check that the heater is working fine, if we know there's going to be a snow in 2 days, it's better to have it in the database, and you can have automatic testing of the heater. The same, then after I thought another case would be the cooling in a data center. If you know there's going to be a heat wave in 2 days, you can have automatic testing of the cooling, automatic stop of certain server if they're not essential, etc. So it helps preventing all those natural hazards. And as I said, there's going to be more and more. So it's important not to have a phone call, oh, it's going to be hot tomorrow. It's better to have that directly in the system, and it can make some prevention action. So to finish, for the four important pillars, universal, I would say we have 5 dimensions. Maybe we are the only one having 5 dimensions in the format. There is the space 3 dimension, the time, and the digital, the IP. So we have all those dimensions. Wide incident classification. So we started with ENISA RIST reference security incident taxonomy, but I have to admit that after testing it, the idea was good, but it's not good enough. I'm reworking that completely. I'm taking part of ENISA, but I'm taking everywhere to. The idea is to have an incident classification the same. It shouldn't be too big. So the first level is first level, 2 levels, so we approximated maybe 30 entries in the first level and 60, 90 in the second, but not more. We can't have, for example, we've been working on QRadar. They have classification. I think they have 1,400 classification just for cyber. So if you start working like that, that's a famous exhaustivity. It's not possible. And I can tell you it's 10 times harder to have less, because you have to make choice, but it's working. I hope it will be working. It has to work anyway. Simple and focused, as you say, see, it's very limited number of class and attribute, easy extension, incident detection, and the technology, which should JSON. HTTPS is not the best, but it's very simple. So that's why we choose it. But you can also use Kafka, but it's not in the draft. And end-to-end, as I explained, for a few information like the location. Okay, to finish the theory, I think we're more approximately on time. I will go through a few use cases, and then we go deeper with the engineering use case. So first, IDMEFv2 is been created for critical infrastructure security. So it's very special. It's very good for that. Now it can do a little bit more, but it was the project 7 Shield I will talk about, which was with the ground segment, where we had physical and cyber threats. Another threats we had on the ground segment in Athens, in Greece. That's why there is the location in Greece. The people, they were in the middle of a forest, and one of their risks, more than a virus, was a fire in the forest. and to escape before it burns everything. So that's another reason why this idea of putting the hazard, so it's obvious when you have a big infrastructure, it's obvious that nature can also be dangerous. All smart systems, because they have sensors everywhere, and they have to make decisions and all that. So it's obvious, smart system. So I give the example of connected vehicle. I think it's interesting because that's typically what I'm talking about the computers leaving the data center. So in a vehicle, you can have an autonomous car, for example. You have all kind of sensor, GPS, rear camera. You can see all that on the slide. They can be, so they are sensing, getting information to take decision, but they will be soon cyber targets. I think they are not yet because there are not so many cars you can attack, but the more cars there will be, when people will find a way of making money out of it, they will attack. It can also be vulnerable to external hazards, snow, rain, ice, wind, etc. And they also, of course, they can detect breakdown. So you have a little bit everything of IDMEFv2 in the car. And just to prove what I'm saying about the evolution of computer, I found this schema. I won't explain everything, but it shows how in in the 1950, the guy driving the car was the human. In 2025, the human is not doing much. There is the cruise control, the brake control, the rear control, the whatever control. And I say it's a joke, but I say now the cars are just computers with four wheels, and eventually there is a guy inside, and sometimes there won't be any more. We don't need the human to drive. So obviously, this is the externalization of the incident with the natural hazard, the physical problems, etc. Industry 4.0, I will go quickly, but as a lot of people talk about that, I identify at least 3 concepts linked with IDMEFv2, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, and cyber physical systems. So obviously it's interesting there. And I will talk. I have another important use case, but I will show it later during the CFOSOC presentation. Okay, I have finished the theory. I think we're good on time. Just checking if there is any question. No, no question for the moment. Okay, so is there a, no, I'm not asking the question. I will end if there is some, but please don't hesitate to put the question. So now we will present some project where people have been using 7Shield. Oh, that's too complicated for right now. We will talk, Reda, we will talk about that in the mailing list if you want, but that's too complicated for right now. I don't have the expert with me to go. Yeah, sorry, back to the project. I will present 7Shield. We worked with 7Shield with engineering, but I will present it. Then engineering will present pressing services, Atlantis test studio endurance. CA with Cedric present kinetics, and I will end with CFOSOC. I will explain a little bit more in details later, but in summary, we worked with Gabriele a few years ago on 7Shield. That's where kind of invented IDMEFv2 with my team. And then we tried to work again, but it couldn't happen for administrative reasons. And we recently met, and I realized that he was working, he had put IDMEFv2 on all this project, which was very good news. I didn't know. I knew a little bit, but I wasn't sure. But it shows that Gabriele and engineering, they are not writing IDMEFv2, etc. But they are using it because it's a good solution, and also they were using it without me, which means that the draft and all that are mature enough to be deployed without the creator. So I'll start with Seven Shield. Seven Shield, as I said, it was the protection of ground segment. It was on a big call with all kind of physical infrastructure, and we were on the ground segment with engineering. At the time, I called it the IDMEF team, but it's I don't know, it's my former team. We're working on IDMEFv1, and we were working on a French research project called SECEF, Security Exchange Format. And the idea was to upgrade IDMEFv1 to IDMEFv2, but it will be just cyber. IDMEFv1 is intrusion detection message exchange format. It was really focused on cybersecurity. And when we arrived in the project, so I was on the project working on IDMEFv2 for cyber, and I discovered the cyber physical convergency. I say, are we going to have a format for cyber, one physical? And kind of tried to have one format for everyone, and it kind of worked. So first we had availability, but that was an old idea we had for a long time, physical detection, and the natural hazard is here. Well, there is here the two examples why we decided that, and it confirms to be a good idea. That's the architecture of Seven Shield. What is important is those layers. Here you have the cyber physical layer with the on the right antivirus IDS logs, on the left drones, thermal, laser fence, anti-drones, etc. So, and in the middle, the availability. We had really some physical detection, some cyber detection, and in the middle, availability, and everything correlated and central on a hyper-combined correlator. And really, we were lucky because we had so many. There is about 20 different modules, physical, cyber, the correlator, etc., talking at IDMEFv2, and we're very lucky to check quickly that the theory could work. That's the correlation architecture. That was what we decided at the time on Seven Shield, because IDMEFv2 was just appearing. But the idea, in theory, the correlation could be earlier. Instead of correlating physical availability and cyber, you could hyper-correlate earlier, and it could be interesting for detection. The more information, the more complex you can find the complex attack. For a very simple idea, if someone is entering a network during the night, it can pass through the ITS, whatever, but there is no way, there is not going to be some CPU consumption, some networks. So maybe the security won't see it, but the availability will see some resource consuming in the middle of the night that should be there. That's a simple example, but just to say that the correlation, the more information, the more complex stuff the more detectors you put on the way of the people trying to enter. So the feedback on this project, the confirmation for me, at least, that the cyber and physical world is really on its way, that it was possible to define a universal format. So I kind of insist that's more for historical reason, but it sounds obvious when you have IDMEFv2, but the idea of challenging this outgoing was not this obvious. We weren't even sure it could work. And what was even more interesting is that we saw that it was possible in theory with those few concepts and in practice. And that was very good news. And that for the moment, IDMEFv2 is really the only format available to do that. And then at the end, we also realized that even if the draft is perfect, even if it's working, well, maybe not perfect, but very good idea, very good base, it's very complicated to tune and to promote. That's one reason why we are here. Okay, now I'll give the floor. I don't know who is talking, and Gabriele or Nicola, and you just say next, and I will press the button. Hope you can hear Nicola. Ah, hello, Gabriele. We can't hear you for the moment. No. Cédric, can you hear Gabriele?
No.
Nicola, can you try to talk?
Gilles, do you hear me?
Yes.
And Gabriele, do you have a problem? We can't hear you. Can Nicola start showing the slides?
I think Gabriele, he is speaking. So
do you know the project, all the project, Nicola? And while maybe Gabriele is trying to find a solution, so we can't let everyone. Can you present the slide, Nicola? Or maybe we start with Cédric. We start with Cédric and see if Cédric. 1 second.
I can start. Okay.
Yeah, we start with Cédric and we wait to see if. Okay, I leave you the floor, Cédric.
Okay. So I'm going to present how we are using IDMEFv2 within kinetics. Yes, sorry.
Can you?
Gabriele is trying to speak, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Speak a little bit more.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, not very loud.
C'è qualcuno? Non sentiamo nessuno.
Oh, there's something wrong with your voice. It's all.
Really strange. I'm trying with my mobile phone. I don't know why the browser, the PC browser, doesn't work.
No, I think it's okay now. If you speak close to the phone, it's okay. Cédric, you can go back to sleep.
Un professore, quando c'erano le prime lezioni durante il Covid, ha fatto una lezione completamente da solo. Cioè lui entrava su Zoom, pensava ci fossero i studenti e ha iniziato a fare la lezione e ha parlato un'ora, però non c'era.
Poverino.
Ok, Gabriele.
Non so se era il nostro corso o qualcun altro.
Would you mute your microphone, please?
I don't know who is talking. Someone who is not listening. Okay.
I don't know. Apologies. I'm trying also to share my camera.
Wow. No, it's okay. Just focus on the talking close to the phone so we can hear you correctly.
Okay, so briefly, thank you very much for your introduction, Gilles. And just to say a few words about 7Shield. That's I was the coordinator of 7Shield. It was an Horizon 2020 project. It deals with the protection of ground segments and spatial data assets. Physical assets. 7Shield was an excellent opportunity to adopt and to use IDMEFv2 due to the fact that there were a lot of data sources from different domains. So there was a high level of heterogeneity at the level of the data sources with the cyber sources, physical sources, and also human sources, and including partially, I would say, natural hazards. What we experienced in 7 Shield was using IDMEFv2 was to use such common format to identify potential threats from the cyber part, the physical part, but also the cyber physical part. And since engineering was and is mainly focused on receiving such kind of alerts, in order to process, to correlate, to aggregate such information and provide a much more added value to the operators, it was, for us, it was excellent. Now I'm going to talk about other research projects, which are mainly in the domain of the new CR directive. As you know, at the end of the 2022, the European Commission issued a new directive, mainly devoted to the protection of critical entities and not infrastructure. So entities, the infrastructure are part of entities. Just for let you know what is a critical entity. From the European Commission is considered a particular European significance if it is provided essential services to 6 or more European countries. The European Commission has identified 11 essential services, which are more or less those that have been mentioned by Gilles in his slides. So here we have transportation, energy, banking and financial, health, drinking water, wastewater, digital infrastructure, public administration and space, production, processing and distribution of food. So those 11 essential services might be considered as the new frontier of the critical infrastructure, and they have to be protected, actually. Next, please. What I'm going to present today is, let's say, a short list of projects where after 7 Shield. So you can see. 7 Shield is here not mentioned because it was included by Gilles in his slides, where we have used the IDMEFv2. Starting from the experience we had in 7 Shield, we tried to reuse and to adopt the IDMEFv2 in such different projects. Starting from the first one, Present is an Horizon 2020 project started in 2021, which is related to the preparedness and resilience enforcement for critical infrastructure, cascading cyber physical threats and effects, with focus on district and or regional protection. So the main goal of Present is to have a dedicated focus on a network of critical infrastructure, an analysis of the interdependencies, and evaluation of potential cascading effects. So I'm going to briefly explain how the IDMF and where IDMEFv2 was used within Present. Just to let you know, besides the website, which was also included in the slides from Gilles, there is also the link of the Cordis website. So just for your information. Moving ahead in 2021, engineering was the technical manager in Present, while engineering was the technical coordinator of CyberSys, which was a cybersecurity and energy data services, mainly related to the protection of the electrical power and energy systems infrastructure. Moving ahead with Atlantis, which it is still running. I'm the project coordinator of Atlantis as well. Atlantis will going to end in 2025, September of this year, and is related to the improvement of the resilience of critical infrastructure against large-scale transactional and systemic risks. Also in Testudo, we have used the IDMEFv2. The good news is that IDMEFv2, compared with the other project in Testudo, has been included directly within the grant agreement. So there is a task in charge of engineering where we declare, we state and claim that the modelization for the interoperability with different data sources and the communication between the detectors and the remaining part of the architecture will be based upon IDMEFv2. So that's the news compared with the others. So IDMEFv2 is a part of the grant agreement. So in Testudo, the partners are familiar with IDMEFv2. And I'm going to explain in my slides how IDMEFv2 has been used and proposed within Testudo. The last project is Endurance. Endurance is a project on strategies and services for enhanced disruption, resilience, and cooperation in Europe. Is a new project started in October last year, so it will going to finish in September 2027. And of course, since Endurance is a young project, what I'm going to explain is a proposal of how to adopt and to use IDMEFv2 within the Endurance framework. Next, please. Regarding all those critical infrastructure and infra projects, all have more or less the same mission and the same scope. All of them would like to provide a set of intelligence software solutions in order to improve situation awareness, in order to improve and making much more effective risk and resilience assessment, and in order to protect the critical infrastructure against cyber physical threats, improving protection capabilities, and enabling faster and more effective prevention, response, recovery, and mitigation actions against the threats and risks, looking at the CI interdependencies, either in terms of cross-border interdependencies or in terms of cross-domain or cross-sectorial dimension. Exploring and integrating a new kind of distributed and heterogeneous information sources with a high rate of input data, and enabling all the stakeholders, the security stakeholders, to take the fast and well-informed decision, where the information, of course, needs to have the right quality and reliability content whenever is going to be used. Next, please. I'm going to present per each project, let's say, a logic architecture, where we have a different logical building blocks, and how it is possible to identify where IDMEFv2 can be adopted, can be concretely used. But before starting with every project, I would like to recap briefly, also considering what has been presented by Gilles with the 7-shield logic architecture. Here, all those logic architectures have a common approach in terms of implementing and being compliant with such a reference architecture. What is the important point here to be highlighted? As you can see, there is an integration interoperability layer, which is going to make interoperable a long and huge list of physical detectors, cyber detectors, human detectors. When we talk about human detectors, we are mainly referring to the crowdsourcing, crowd-sensing mobile applications, which are, let's say, directly connected with the physical and the cyber world. Something that in the majority of the case belong to the critical infrastructure that we are going to protect, to make resilient. On the other side of the integration interoperability, there is a set of applications, tools, and services which are going to use whatever is going to be communicated from the data sources in order to be correlated, in order to be aggregated, analyzed, and provided to the operators a set of services, application, and tools for protecting and making much more resilient the critical infrastructure. Next, please. This is the logical architecture of Present. I don't want to go through each individual logical building blocks, but just to let you know, in Present, we have used the IDMEFv2 to normalize and to formalize the alerts coming from different data sources, providing a physical real-time data, cyber real-time data, and also integrating the existing critical infrastructure protection real-time data, integrating also historical data, integrating open data available on internet, data models, and other kind of different sources. So the heterogeneity of the data sources layer, as you can see here, has been mitigated using the IDMEFv2. IDMEFv2 is exactly what those kind of, I call them detectors, have to use to formalize any kind of abnormal event or any kind of anomaly they have identified, they have detected. So every time there is something that is abnormal or is out of the range of what they can consider normal behavior, have to be communicated directly to other components in the architecture using the message broker as has been also described by Gilles. So any kind of message broker is enough, or a dedicated API manager. On the other side of the integration layer, of course, there are solutions for the data and knowledge management and processing, and of course, in that specific case, a digital twin instantiation to use such kind of data in order to represent exactly the condition, the conditional status of the critical infrastructure. So that's how we have used within Present the IDMEFv2. There is here something that I would like to highlight. Normally, when we deal with at the data source layer, we have what I call the detector. It might be physical, it might be cyber, it might be cyber physical, it might be human. The main task of the detector is to collecting raw data from the environmental CI from the CI environment, and to transform such kind of, to analyze such kind of raw data from the physical perspective or the cyber perspective or the human perspective, analyzing such kind of data wherever there is an abnormal condition to be communicated. They have to package everything in using IDMEFv2 and subscribe and publish everything to the message broker in order to communicate, to notify to the relevant subscribers. So that's how we mean the usage of IDMF. But in some cases, like in the case of Present, such kind of normalization or adaptation of the different notification from the different detectors have been done by a specific component, which was a normalizator, able to transform any kind of alert in different formats with a unified formats, which was exactly IDMEFv2. Okay, so that's how we have used within Present. Next, please. Here in CyberSys, next, there should be an animation probably. Okay, so here in CyberSys, we have chosen the IDMEFv2 in the domain of the electrical power and energy system It was mainly related to, as you can see here, there are a set of assets to be monitored, and a set of combinational and selection of different kind of services to be orchestrated. And that's how the IDMEFv2 have been used, starting from the collection of such kind of raw data from the physical layer directly to the, let's say, the very high level, to be orchestrated according to the list of the list of potential models and services, combining them and activating them again towards the physical assets. Next, please. This is the case of the use case of Atlantis. Again, in Atlantis, we have used the IDMF for two different data sources or detectors, let's say. In Atlantis, we have normalized the information from different cyber detectors. For instance, disinformation campaign tool to identify and issue alerts in case of a disinformation campaign. The name of the tool is Truly Media, and it was used IDMF to notify through the Kafka broker any kind of anomaly in case of disinformation. But also in terms of deep fake analysis, image tagging, and image similarities. So another kind of potential hack of the information coming from the different sources. Again, disinformation campaign. Threat intelligence. So the analysis and grouping of cyber threat intelligence data provided by Truly Media or by open source intelligence data. And again, it is here. It is possible to every time there is an abnormal behavior or something that might be considered as a relevant and potentially dangerous for the critical infrastructure. It has to be notified to the overall, to the rest of the critical critical infrastructure protection framework through the IDMEFv2. EBRA, which is a network analysis tool, analyzing data from 40 gates logs. As you can see here, we are moving within the same kind of detectors, but with different for different aims, for different goals. We have a different disinformation campaign, we have a threat intelligence, we have a network analysis, and intrusion detection systems. So there is also a huge heterogeneity of data and sources and information dealing with the same kind of detectors, cyber. Moving to the other part. So as we said, there is not the cyber part, but we have also here in Atlantis physical and human detectors. The physical detector is only one, which is an environmental sensor for detecting potential threats in analyzing air quality for a cyber physical scenario. And the human in the vicinity is a human sensor technologies using the mobile application for critical infrastructure operators involved mainly on the spot, on the field, and detecting something using making a video or a photo and providing this information directly to the framework, the main framework, using again IDMEFv2. So you can see here we have heterogeneity of data, heterogeneity of systems, but on the other side of the framework, everything has been normalized. So when we will deal with such kind of notification for who is going to analyze such kind of notification, it's quite simple. It's quite easier because they have to only to identify, okay, which is the source, which is the target, when it occurs, which kind of threats have been identified, and everything is been really, really normalized. Next, please. Here we have Testudo. As I said, the Testudo is actually the only one project, a research project dealing with the critical infrastructure protection, has IDMEFv2 directly in the grant agreement. This is the testudo data model, which is, as you can see, pretty similar to what has been described by Gilles in his slides. As you can see, there is here a class named that has IDMEFv2. Then we have an analyzer, sensors, attachment, vector, target, and sources. This is exactly IDMEFv2. And it is crucial, of course, because we need to have asynchronous and reliable interaction and data exchange between the different systems. Leveraging on an event-driven architecture, the IDMEFv2 is going to be a sort of standard for data format that the incident detection systems can use to report alerts when events can be detected. And the key features are probably is part of the overall work, structural data representation, extensibility, interoperability, and enhancement of the current information. Next, please. Okay, so I'm going to conclude my presentation with the Endurance future adoption, which is, of course, as I said, Endurance is a research project started in end of 2024. Here, as you can see, is depicted the Endurance logic architecture, where there are three different main layers, let's say. One is related to the enablers. Enablers are the elements on which such framework leverage on. We have the three main pillars, let's say. One is the data space for you trusted CR based on security data exchange and data governance and data models. Another one is a federated machine learning framework for data processing and analysis. And the last one is the digital twin for essential service-oriented applications. Upon that enabler list of enablers, there is a set of analytical tools able to process the data collected and pre-processed by the enablers in order to provide the threat intelligence tools, risk identification assessment and anticipation tools, interdependency model analysis. That's why I do think it is important for us, again, to mitigate the heterogeneity of the different data sources and to work with a normalized and unified format. It is important for those analytical tools to receive such kind of notification in a unique way, in a unified format. Interoperability between enablers and analytical tools could rely on IDMEFv2. So that's, of course, the proposal. Next, please. Exactly. So this is exactly where we would like to work on. Then, before concluding my presentation, there is here a list of lessons learned and the key points. I leave the floor to my colleague Nicola. I don't know if he can join the telco.
Yes, thank you, Gabriele. Hello, everybody. I hope you hear me okay. I have some problems with my connections.
No, it's okay.
I think they are solved. Okay. Across all the projects that have been presented by Gilles and Gabriele, we have noticed a couple of points that I'd like to present today. First of all, of course, it's the importance of normalization format. That, as you seen and as Gilles and Gabriele told, we have a very heterogeneous systems, and interoperability is a key feature that we seek, and of course, a normalization format does this. And also, a normalization format facilitates an automated processing, correlation, and incident response for the layer that receives all the information from sensors and detectors. And of course, this serves as a foundation for scalable and modular security infrastructures. In the projects that you have seen so far, the type of data that was represented, of course, was cyber detection from CI networks, physical detection from many different sensors and detectors, such as here, just a brief example, people movement, and abnormal behaviors of people, quantity of people in an area, fire, smoke, and chemical agents, air quality anomalies, and then all the others that Gabriele has presented as well. What we have seen so far in the course of these years across the projects is that the format is being promoted, and as mentioned by Gabriele, the fact that IDMF is explicitly mentioned in the
We lost you, Nicolas. Cédric?
Yes, I can't hear Nicolas neither.
Gabriele, can you finish?
Yes, I can go ahead replacing Nicola. It's strange to have a lot of issues with our connection. Anyway, as Nicola was saying, of course, Testudo is in Testudo there is an explicit mention in the grant agreement, while in Cyberseas, Atlantis, and present, it has been widely adopted, and it will be promoted extensively in endurance. Next, please.
Just for you, Gabriele, we have to accelerate a little bit, I think.
Yes, this is the last slide, probably.
Okay.
Going just to wrap up and trying to provide the lesson learned and feedback from the technological. The lesson learned, easy acceptance of the format. It was evident that proposing IDMEFv2 during the technological meetings was something quite easy, and also in terms of proposition and in terms of acceptance. The latest draft, the V3 and V4, are mature enough for unsupervised implementation. And an adaptation layer is always needed, as I said at the beginning of my presentation. If you recall, between the data source layer and the integration, there is a need of adaptation layer to transform the data in IDMEFv2 format. And it is also possible to make reference to guidelines and examples from best practice for specific data, to represent specific data. From the technological usage and the feedback, adopting IDMF is not time-consuming. The field attachment offers, in most of the cases, flexibility for custom and domain-specific content. User feedback has confirmed and are going to confirm the early prototyping and documentation reduced the integration errors, and the usage of the same format, as we said several times, allows for a better correlation of alerts. So that's what I would like to say before closing my presentation. That's fine from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriele. Sorry, I've pushed you a bit, because that was maybe the most important slide. I think I insist on the fact that you've used it, your team, without us. It's as you say, mature enough and not so complicated. Okay, I give you the floor, Cédric. I want to keep some time to talk about the standardization. But you don't have many slides, so it's okay. Go on.
Just 3 slides. So I'm Cédric from CEA in France, and also the coordinator of the Kinetics project, which is funded by the European Union. And so within Kinetics, the objectives of the project is to integrate the fact that we are right now designing systems at the frontier between cyber, physical world. We are introducing artificial intelligence into the system. And of course, this is a good thing for many functionalities that we can develop. This is also augmenting the attack surface of the system. And within Kinetics, we are centered around a few use cases in health domain, in cybersecurity related domain, and we are trying to protect the systems in which we combine some physical attack surface, some cyber attack surface, also the existence, the introduction within the system of artificial intelligence, which is involving some flows, and also some potential interaction with humans. So you can go to the next one. I will give you just one example of a use case we are developing within the Kinetics project, and especially in CA. In CA, we are developing some monitoring system based on ultrasound waves, in which we are using some sensors in railways in order to control the fact that railways are still in correct condition to allow the trains to go through the rails. And so we are using some sensors at the edge, sending some signals and recording the echo. We are doing some analysis on the local side, then transmitting some information to a server which is integrating the information from various local sensors and local detectors. This has to be analyzed in conjunction with some other environment sensors, some other contexts. It can be some audio context, some other security related context. And so we have developed within the project some detectors based on different kind of signals. This can be related to network exchanges like syslog data, PCAPS data. It can be related to the activity of the different nodes and servers gathered into syslogs information, and it can be also some information gathered from the environment, for example, some micro or other contextual environment. The idea is that within this context, we have the issue of sharing a common format for detection. And based on the use of graph neural networks, which is integrating various sources of data, we are producing IDMEFv2 messages, which is producing a normalized format and is allowing us especially to introduce some information related to the context of detection of the artificial intelligence. And so you can go to the next slide, just to conclude with this example. What we needed in this project, and especially in this use case, was a format able to deal with cyber, physical, or availability events, which was able to build the messages, the events, and share to an higher layer. We had artificial intelligence used in the system to produce the alerts, and the willingness to share information and detection events with some contexts, which can be model information, the version of the model, the parameters, the important features. And what we found with IDMEFv2 format is something which is very simple in terms of format compared to existing competitors. Quick setup on our side to build, to use the format and to produce initial messages, detection messages. The format is quite versatile in terms of ability to incorporate some information related to machine learning and artificial intelligence. For example, on the right of the slide, you can see that we have a hash word here, which is showing the version of the model. And as such, it is for us ready to share what is produced by artificial intelligence. This is on the side of production, also on the side of gathering, it offered the opportunity to gather events in a single format coming from various sources, and so allowing artificial intelligence to do some correlation in a normalized way, which is very useful for the artificial intelligence requirements. I stop here with this example and give the floor to Gilles, I think, for the remaining slides.
Thank you, Cédric. Thank you, Nicolas and Gabriele. Now I'll go through Save4Soc. So Save4Soc is the project I'm working on right now. Cédric is part of the project. It talks about standard alert format exchange for SOCs. The idea is to define a format, process and format to collaborate between SOCs. There are three major concepts. The gateways, IDMEFv2 gateways on commercial SIEMs. So here we're working with Splunk, QRadar, and RSA. The information sharing gateway is a component to filter information between SOCs. And this was really proposed by the Commission. It's a European project. I didn't realize first time how it's important, and I will explain why. And then we centralized the information to have AI detection in the centralized information. And maybe there are some detection you can make by gathering all the SOCs information in the same point that you wouldn't find if you take one SOC at a time. Of course, here we have 3 SOCs, but in a real world, it will be maybe 10, 20, 30, something like that. So quick schema. How does it work here? We have QRadar. With the QRadar alerts, we have a first gateway transforming QRadar in IDMEFv2, and then the information sharing gateway filtering what information is shared with a central hypervisor. So we do that with Splunk, with RSA. We also have directly CPSIM. CPSIM is the, call it CPSIM, I don't know, it's Concerto Cyber and Physical SIM, sending the information. And during the project, we created a little app sending information also in IDMEFv2. It's more a proof of concept. I will make a small demonstration, but it was a good opportunity to mix geolocation and alert in the format. So what is interesting, we took this format just to try to work on IDMEFv2. That was the basic goal. So we are producing quite a lot of code on the GitHub, Python and Java libraries to use to create IDMEFv2. But the format is simple, so you can even create with your own coding. But with the libraries, you will have the verification with the schema, etc. Online validator, I will show you at the end of the presentation. The idea is to have a place where you can put a generated JSON file and test if it's working. It was done, the first version of the validator. I've done it for the 7-shield format, for 7-shield project. But now we're turning it on a JSON, IDMEFv2 JSON wizard, I would say, because you have some examples, you can play some exercise, you try to learn a little bit to play with. It's not just a validator, it's something you can, after this presentation, you can connect, not everyone at the same time, and just have a look. So if you see, oh, okay, I understand this is working like this, like that. We're developing a lot of gateways. I call that gateways because I like to make a comparison between SMTP for mail and IDMEFv2 for security. Before, all the messaging servers, they weren't connected together, and someone invented SMTP to make the connection. IDMEFv2 is a little bit like that. So the same way you have a SMTP gateway in a Microsoft Exchange mail system, you will have a IDMEFv2 gateway in Splunk, Suricata, whatever. I'm not hoping that everyone is going to change all the system to put IDMEFv2 inside, but the idea is to have a gateway so you can correlate all the information. So actually, we're developing one for Suricata, for Splunk, for Suricata, Wazoo. We will have Curadar, RSA, Greylog, Elastic, maybe get away with the common alert protocol for natural hazard, OSCF that I talked about. The major part is the Concerto SIEM. Concerto is a fork of Prelude. You see the play on word of Prelude, which was the SIEM was managing for nearly 15 years. We used the OSS version, forked it, and adapted to IDMEFv2. So it's quite a big stuff because a lot of it have been reused, but really the GUI has been reused, but the backend is really new technology with Logstash, Elasticsearch, things like that, very robust. And the little app, IDMEF Android Alerter, again, it's more a gadget for the moment, but it's very interesting to challenge the geolocation alert, and it's something you can, it will be available in the Android store. So one use case I want to talk about that I found out during the project is I realized, because honestly, I was going to do this project just for finishing the draft. And actually, I found very, very interesting in this collaboration between SOC. So let's talk about the army. I've worked a lot for French army in my industry past, and I think it's the same in all armies. There are a lot of different systems. Contractor, they do a system, their own security, another one. So there is plenty of different stuff. And this is represented by the color of the data. This could be Splunk, here Curadar, this what in the air, in the land. And the idea of IDMEFv2 is to be able to create an hypervisor for each army and a supervisor. And having worked in the army, I've seen this use case, at least in the Navy, in the air, and I've not done all the project, but it's obvious, it's important. And another use case I didn't know, I realized in for SOC is when you have a war, because unluckily there are many wars, and you have a framework nation, it's the chief of the army. When armies, here you have a framework nation with some assets, and there is allies coming. And typically, when you work together, and it's very important for what all they say about the European defense, they want to make people work together. So you have to have the army for different countries working together. And one major difficulty is that they have to collaborate. So you have to have interoperability. So IDMEFv is part of the solution, at least for monitoring all the incident detection. And incident detection, as you saw in the examples of Gabriele and Cedric, goes very far. When the soldier will be connected with a little GPS and all that, you can have the message going in IDMEFv2 saying their location, taking their heartbeat, etc. All you see. Of course, it can be done with other format, but they will be proprietary, as IDMEFv2 can do the soldier, the tank, the server, the natural hazard, etc. And if you want to share, as allies, they're sharing information, but not all the information. Here, the famous information sharing gateway saying which attributes are shared is very important. So what are the feedback? I knew SIEM's format were very different, but now we worked really on each of Splunk, Curadar, trying to compare the attributes. It's really a mess. The same concept, they don't have the same concepts. I think Curadar, I think it's offense or some other alert incident event, I don't know. Sometimes they have the same concept, but not the same name. So, for example, source IP can be source.ip, src_IP, etc., etc. So they don't have the same look and feel. And why is it a problem? It's a problem because when you pass from a SIEM to another, for the same job, you have to relearn everything. When you pass from a SMTP server or IMAP server or whatever to SMTP server, even if it's another brand, it's the same concept, the same for SNMP. That's very important. The way you lose a lot of time reinventing everything, as when you have a standard, it's good for that. And no place for physical security. And I announced to you today that in 2025, SIEMs are not SIEMs anymore. You can't pretend that you are having a security information and event management if you don't deal with physical. It was okay in 2005. In 2025, they should be called cyber security information event management. Remember that, that's very important. Another thing important is what happens in the SOC stays in the SOC. That's the major problem for collaboration. People don't want to share the information. And there, the information sharing get away, and we really confirm that with all the pilot and the project. They don't want to share information. But if you say we share only information like the source of the attack and not the target IP, because the target IP is private and the source is outside, then this is okay. So the information sharing get away, deleting information, anonymizing information, pseudo-anonymizing. This is a very, very important concept. SIEM, SOC, PSIM, PSIM is physical SIEM. Integrity, I think, should be a nation and an industry priority. We have attacks everywhere, hybrid attacks. You hear that all the day they're attacking on the net, on the disinformation, etc., etc. And we are still using different format. And I think we have a good opportunity with that. It would be a shame it wouldn't be used. And the last thing we learn, and that's part of the conclusion, is the standardization path is really complex, and I want to share this information with you before we finish, so I hurry. A small feedback for the coders. We are coding a gateway for CLAMAV, and we realized that CLAMAV used to be syslog, then they added JSON for the alert. But as they don't like to document, there is no documentation. So not only there is no documentation, but as the coders of CLAMAV, they don't really know what is necessary for incident detection on the centralized part. So they put everything, even things not interesting. As if they go to IDMEFv2, it's already documented, and we already have thought about what was interesting. So it's it's better for them. They have less documentation, less coding. So that's very interesting. I didn't realize that not only it's a mess, all those logs with different format, but it needed a lot of work of all those coders to reinvent a format. So everybody would be happy if there was the same format. So conclusion, before we end, because if some people leave at 4, I really want to share with you the IDMF, IETF standardization process, and you can read what I wrote. When you do something, you'll have against you that the Confucius, very, very, very known, but there it's really that. I knew it would be complicated, but it's even more complicated than I thought. Very quickly, the genesis, or maybe I've said that already. I just wanted to explain how difficult it has been to arrive to here. It needed that in my team, we had monitoring, then security, then we thought about convergency, then we met the people from Seven Shield, then Gabriele accepted that I'll give him an Excel file with everything we did in 3 months. We invented IDMEFv2. Then it worked. So we did all the way. I think we have something interesting. And now we are in front of the standardization step, and everything seems to be very, very complicated. Just as a reminder, the first IDMEFv1 was made in 2007. It started maybe 10 years of work before, and Hervé Debar is now the guy I'm working in IMT. That's how I get the job, because For 10 years now, we're working together. I was in another company, now in the same company, trying to finish this IDMEFv2. So there is 2 drafts submitted for the format and for the transport. The transport is quite simple. So I want to explain to you, all of you, this process, the standardization process. Here, we have defined what we call an individual draft. It's called GLEMAN because I'm the only one working on it. So there is 2 paths. The plan A was to create a working group, official working group, or join a working group in the IETF, work on an internet draft, last call, and then you go to a standard or not standard track. Standard track is like SMTP. Non-standard track is like experimental and informational. IDMEFv1 is experimental. So it's not a shame to be experimental. It means that you are way ahead of everyone. So for me, experimental is okay. It needs to be experimented, implemented, and maybe in 5 years, we do a final version official, but experimental would be perfect. So we went to IETF. I had 5 minutes to talk about the project, even though it's nearly 10 years we've done of work. And at the end, they weren't interested. I'm making it short. The problem is that IETF is really protocol-oriented. IDMEFv2 is maybe a mistake 10 years ago. Now they do a lot of protocol. And as you can see, IDMEFv2 is complex. There is cybersecurity, physical security, and in the people who were there, they mixed everything. They confused OSCF with IDMEF. They said, oh, it already exists as it doesn't, etc. And I think having a working group there with people who are more protocol-oriented won't have been a good solution. So it's fine not having the working group, but now we have to go to the plan B. So the plan B is to keep working on the RC and hopefully get to the standardized track. And this is not, it might not happen because maybe they won't insist. And the first thing we need to do is to make people know IDMEFv2. And that's one reason why there is this webinar. Even if technically it's perfect, the last step for the standardization, it needs more people to use it. So what are our chances? The cons, IETF is more protocol than format. Standardization is a long and uncertain process, and we're running out of time. I have only 1.5 years left on the project. The concept is very new, so there are very, very few cross competencies. And it's a proposed standard compared to imposed standard. What I call imposed standard is when Google, Microsoft, or whatever they come, they say this is the standard. The proposed standard was often 20 years ago now. When you come alone with a standard, if you don't have a big machine behind you, it's more difficult. Then the pros is that these difficulties, as I said, it's been 15 years we're working on that, and every time everything was going wrong, we found a solution. So for the moment, and just the fact that we connect with the engineering, I didn't know they had all this project. Gabriele didn't know I had so much problem for standardization. So just that is a good news for today. The drafts are written and published. It's years of work because it's all the experience we had on the team on correlation, which helped doing that quickly. And we have a lot of code. We have the concerto. We have a lot of things to test it. It has been tested on many projects, and we have a bunch of stuff in open source. And the need for IDMEFv2, the more we go, the more it's obvious. It's obvious there is no alternative, and it's obvious there is a need for the future. So it would be a shame that all this work in 1.5 years, it end up in a refused draft somewhere, wherever. Quickly, the next steps, I've identified some tunings, some typos, complete new incident categories. So stay tuned on IDMEFv2 mailing list to know about that. UIDs in all class, target category, all that. Hopefully, I'm hoping to write the best common practice draft. It's a document to explain how to use the the format, grow the community and visibility. So there you can help. We are trying. We have to make it known everywhere, and then we'll go back to IETF, hoping that we can go finish the process, and probably in parallel we will contact Oasis, because Oasis standardization is maybe more format oriented. The problem is Oasis now you have to pay, so I don't know how much, whatever. It's funny, you want to offer a standard to the community and you have to pay for that. I don't know, it's bizarre. So our deadline is beginning of September, when Safe4SOC project will stop, and I'm not sure there will be, we have to finish something by this time. Then maybe it will continue to evolve, but we have to finish. So how can you participate? You can first keep informed and spread the word. So you are in the newsletter, please stay on it. But if you have been interested, LinkedIn, if you want to listen to things a little bit more technical, go to the IDMEFv2 mailing list, test and use IDMEFv2 tools, implement your gateways, read the draft. Any ideas are welcome to help go to the standardization. And I finish with all that we'll send you with all the addresses, the links to the website, the GitHub, the mailing list, etc. There is only 2 minutes left. So is there any question? I know it's complicated to ask a question quickly like that. So anyway, as I said, there is the IDMEFv2 mailing list. You can join it if you have any question, but maybe first have a look to the draft and all that. And if you want to there are some people in the list who are, one guy from Sleeps School, he has put IDMEFv2 in his tool, and we are discussing how to improve the connection if you want to do things like that. So I finished with a demonstration for those. I see the number of people lowering. So for those who can stay a little bit longer, it's not going to be very long because we've done our time. So that's the value. I would show that on the for real, but I'm explaining to you. So that's the validator. It's online. You have example. You can load an example. Exercise. You can load something with mistakes, and when you validate, there is all the mistakes here, and there you have some tooltip and all that, and try to correct it. So it's quite interesting to learn to see how it works, because there are a lot of help with information from the draft, and try to improve. If it's not magic, IDMEFv2 is easy, but still you have to read a little bit the documentation. But it will give you an idea of how it works. You can upload your own JSON to verify it's working, and if it's not working, it will give you some hints to where the mistakes are. Then there is Concerto CM. So the first IDMEFv2 CM, as I said, it's I don't know, 10 years of work on the GUI that we got from the Prelude v1. So it's very powerful, and we've redone with the very, very small team I have now. We've redone the backend to have IDMEFv2. And the last application, we did this Android app. It's very simple. You can there is 3 screens. The idea is to send an alert from a phone. So you can send, you have 2 messages, no problem, in help, the info. And what was interesting for us is to play with latitude, longitude, see how it works, implement all that on a smartphone. On Android, we are not expert at all, but as we have just JSON and HTTPS, it has not been so difficult. It's more difficult to do the GUI, and the connection has been very easy. And then by default, it sends the information to the central SIM we have for fun. So, but you can send it to your own server. Okay. So quickly, I will try to share my, just give me 1 second. So many. Too many windows, I'm lost. First, I suppose I can stop that. It's coming, partager. Can you see the validator? Cédric?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that's the validator. I will show you just an example. So I have few examples. I load an example so you can read an example, see a little bit how it works. And of course, the example, if I validate, it's okay. Then I have few exercises. We are trying to add more and more, like a network anomaly. You validate and you have all these errors, and then you go to the error and you try to correct it, and slowly severity, for example, it was in V03, now in V04 it's not here anymore, so property is not allowed. So of course you have to know a little bit about the format. Here you can change the version for the moment, only 2 versions. You can import, export, copy in the buffer for documentation, and of course delete. And that's about it. So as I said, it's available online, and it's a good way to start playing if you are not expert, but see a little bit how it works. Then this is Concerto. So Concerto, there is 4 major features: alerting, analysis with some statistic, archive, which is the log. So alerting is when you receive the alert, and you have the detail of the alert in IDMEFv2. You have all kind of little functions. See, the details are the same. When it's a good way to learn a little bit how it works inside. I can't show you everything like that, but we had some nice feature to make a search that reduce the search, see only attempt, etc. with a page. Aggregated alert, macrovization, I won't see you. Control menu where you define your research. Analysis is statistic. For this version is very static, but it's nice. Things like that. Archive is all the logs, the syslog, the raw log, the same. You have a timeline. You have the research search into it. It's like a sim. Maybe with less. It's the fork of the open source version. The commercial version had more things, but it's the base of a sim. And I finished with the phone map. So I just 1 second. Gosh. Yes, well, you won't see it because it's already there. So that's, I don't know, I hope you see a bit. That's the phone map, and somebody is sending a message. And here we have on the map, we have the team on Paris, team on here, and from EHT in Sicilia, the 2 coders. I think we have someone in San Jose also who has tried the system. So you just press the button. Well, I'm not going to show you now, but press the button and it arrives directly on HTTPS. So again, it's not a big deal, but it has all the components of HTTP, and it can it gives ideas to how you can abandon that in IoTs and all that. Okay, it's 4:07. You are still 34. So thank you very much for staying. We started around 56. We lost approximately half, but it's still nice to have stayed for all of you. I will send a mail when it be ready on the newsletter with some information if you want to join the IDMEFv2 mailing list for more information to discuss whatever. I will send you a link with the video, the slide, and please, if you think it's a good idea, help us make it spread the word with the information. Anyone wants to, I'm sure not, but anyone has a question? You have my mail, I suppose, or anyway, you can talk in IDMEFv2, and please subscribe to all the mailing list and all that to keep informed. Okay, well, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Au revoir.